Hello, welcome back. We're taking a look today at the ego. And yes, it is insane. Crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy and insane. And when we identify with it, what does that make us? Well, mistaken, that's all. Mistaken. Yes. We've moved on to chapter 5, section 5 of the text, and this section is entitled The Ego's Use of Guilt. So, yeah, that's exactly what it's about, is the ego's use of guilt. But there is also a theme in this section of the text that, of course, underlies and is prevalent throughout A Course in Miracles, and that's the power of your mind, the power of mind in general. There's one mind, power that you can tap into and use to awaken. And this power can also be, as we see and experience on a day-to-day basis, misused. So ours is the choice here in the present moment to side with the Holy Spirit or to side with the ego, to side with God or the ego, light or dark, life or death, self with a capital S, little self, individual, little ego self. Yeah. Truth or illusion, however you wish to characterize this decision, those are all just words. There's one decision with exactly two options. And the one we choose, in other words, the one we side with, shows us the result of that choice. An insane world if we side with the ego, or what the Course refers to as the real world, true perception, peace, and joy when we side with the strength of Christ. Yeah. So we all know, it doesn't take much thought, does it, to know that siding with truth is going to show us peace and joy. We're allowing truth to be as it is when we side with it. And when we side with the ego, we experience more of the same here. Frustration, excess activity, juggling plates and overwhelm, depression, sadness, despair, warfare, combat, even if you don't hold a gun or drive a tank or fly a highly developed bomber, we're still doing battle with ourselves and our brother in our own mind. Let's spend a couple of minutes here talking about the ego, and it is literally a fearful thought. Its purpose is fear. That's its purpose. And we see here right at the start of this section that it is a thought system unto itself, just as this course, the thought system of the Holy Spirit, is a thought system unto itself, with its own logic, just based on an insane premise. So when we side with the ego, we go down the proverbial rabbit hole and we sit and spin, so to speak, and suffer and just dig ourselves further and further until we decide that we've had enough. And perhaps that decision has come for you. Perhaps you have made it recently or years ago, and perhaps you're about to make it today. Yeah, that's very exciting. Our mind is so powerful. We have this power of choice. It has never been taken away from us and will never be taken away from us. We can choose heaven or earth as we select, as we choose, as we elect. We can choose one or the other. We can choose God, or we can choose individuality, self-sustaining survival units competing for what we deem to be scarce resources and suffering in the process. Beautiful, right? No. There might be some beautiful moments here, of course, but they don't last. They're not permanent. They're not eternal. Even the gorgeous candlelit dinner and fabulous bottle of wine that's powerful and exalting doesn't last, does it? No, it does not. We can choose heaven or earth as we elect. And the ego is literally a fearful thought. Its purpose is fear, and it engenders guilt, vast amounts of guilt. In heaven, there is no guilt. There's only the awareness of perfect oneness. That is the Course's definition of heaven, the awareness of perfect oneness. So there's no separate other to blame. There's no separate other to cast out of the garden, so to speak. Right? There's nothing separate at all. There's only perfect oneness. There can't be any guilt. There's no thing to feel guilty about. Guilt is the symbol of an attack on God. The ego believes in it wholeheartedly. When you side with the ego, you believe in it wholeheartedly. We use the word symbol here because it really is a symbol. The ego is not a thing. It is a mistaken belief. It's a mistaken thought, a fearful thought. It's not real. Why? Because it's not God. Therefore, it is illusion. Yet when we adhere to it, when we identify with it, it becomes real to us through the power of our own mind. It's the case, very much the case, that what we believe, we see and experience. It becomes our experience, our so-called reality, yet it's not real. God is real, love is real. Separation is not real, yet the ego believes in it. The ego believes it is you. And, well, when we listen to this part of our mind that is complete mistake, we run amok. So when we identify with the ego, we feel guilty and fear punishment. The perceived separation from God is where this guilt comes from, and it is massive. There is, for all of us, a vast store of unconscious guilt. How vast? Well, we don't really know, but the Holy Spirit knows. When we identify with the ego, we are quite simply mistaken. And mistakes, happily, can be corrected. That is what the atonement is the correction of the Holy Spirit. When we accept atonement for ourselves, we're accepting the correction of the Holy Spirit for ourselves. And we're told in many parts of A Course in Miracles that the essence of the atonement is the acknowledgement that the separation never occurred. It is impossible that it ever could have occurred. We cannot carve off a piece of God and throw it away. God can't be carved up into little bits and pieces, can't be disposed of. And let's all be very grateful and glad that that's the case. Otherwise, there would be no home, so to speak, to return to. We can't carve up God into little pieces and separate little pieces and little separate little sons of God off over here doing our thing. That's not possible. There's no separation of any kind. Ideas, i.e., the Son of God, ideas leave not their source. We've never left our source. Capitalize that S. I invite you to do that. Thoughts never leave the mind of the thinker. Ooh, ideas leave not their source. Capital S. See, when we identify with the ego, we believe that we actually have separated from God, that we've actually thrown away heaven, and we're terrified. We fear punishment from without because that's how the ego sees things, as separation, right? As subject, object, me, you, separation. That's duality, me, you, yeah. The ego sees it all that way. And this guilt is so acute for having thought that we could separate from God and throw away perfect oneness, throw away heaven. It's not possible to do that, but when we identify as separate beings, we believe we've done that. This guilt is so acute that it must be projected. We can't handle it, so we get rid of it. We attempt to place it outside of us, as far from us, what we deem to be us, as possible. And that is the explanation for the world that the body's eyes show us. It's all symbolic. That's why we say that the ego is a symbol. It too is a symbol that has no reality. It's a fearful thought. It's simply a mistake. So let's state again the critical importance here in the study and practice of A Course in Miracles, of accepting atonement for ourselves, the essence of which is the separation never occurred. Atonement is the correction of the Holy Spirit. The ego is a simple mistake that can be corrected if we allow our inner teacher to correct our perception. We simply set this fearful thought aside. We do not kick it in the face. The bumper sticker, the t-shirt, kick fear in the face. Well, kicking something in the face is a violent act, which presumes an opponent, doesn't it? No, the correction of the Holy Spirit tells us that the ego is simply a mistake to be set aside. We simply shine the light of truth on it, and it is gone. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. We don't make an opponent out of it and bludgeon it or whip it or grab our .45 pistol and shoot it. No. We acknowledge that the separation never took place. There is no separation of any kind. The ego is simply a mistake. And let's come back to the title of our discussion today. When we believe that we are an ego, an individual, it's insane. It's not sane. It's wildly inaccurate, and we go forth and make it real. And despite our misery, we attempt to defend its reality. The ego itself is defining and defending personal territory. We defend the illusion at the cost of the life of the physical body sometimes. And really, it's the cost of our own sanity. It's at the cost of the sanity and wholeness of our mind. Deep down, we want to leave this behind. If you didn't, you wouldn't be interested in this. There's no way you'd be interested in spiritual practice in general, much less A Course in Miracles. You would not be interested in this. There's so much other content out there on YouTube and other social media channels. You could be watching anything else right now. I mean, I appreciate that you're watching this video right now. More than that, I appreciate what that actually means. And what that means is you've heard the call and you're answering the call. Yes, keep doing that. The call of the Holy Spirit, of your inner teacher, goes out to all of us 24/7, all the time. It's constant. Why we see so few people really devoting themselves to spirituality, really devoting themselves to awakening, really devoting themselves to healing the Son of God is because very few people are actually listening to the call. Few people listen to it, fewer still answer it and do what our inner teacher suggests that we do. Forgive the Son of God. Heal the mind. Yes. You are answering the call. And for that, I am very grateful. And everyone else is very grateful, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, or whether they tell you or not. Most of them aren't going to tell you that they're grateful. But we all know this deep down, why there's one mind. We're connected, of course, because there is no separation of any kind. Ever. There never has been. Your brother is you. Really. This is why it's true that when we forgive, we're forgiving ourselves. Yes, we appear to be forgiving someone else or a situation or what appears to be a separate situation. What appears to be a separate somewhere else is not separate at all. We're forgiving ourselves as one. Oneness. Oneness. So, yes, the ego is insane, and it is simply a mistake. You are not evil. You are not bad. You are not a sinner. There is no sin. God has no ego to be offended. No one has ever sinned against anyone else because there is no one else. There's no one to sin against. It's not possible. So let's all please take heart. The ego, yes, is wildly insane, and it is simply a mistake that we can set aside. So let's all do just that, shall we? All right. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and I really appreciate all of your subscriptions, the views, and the comments and questions here. If you have comments or questions, please feel welcome to leave them here. I will get back to them. I will see them within a short period of time. And the subscription button is right here. That's the red arrow. If you've not joined us yet, please feel welcome to do so. We'd love to have you subscribe and join us. It's an international community, and these videos appear several times a week. We're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, and gosh, I never know what's going to appear to come out of my mouth on a given day. But the purpose behind doing this is sharing the Holy Spirit with you. It's sharing our inner teacher. So when something inspires you, when something lands for you and connects and resonates, know that it's your inner teacher talking to you. We'd all do very well to listen and to follow its guidance. Yes, let's all do that today. And I'll see you back here next time.